Welcome back. So I'm still on the topic of love and reading from the book Salvation, Black People in Love, written by Bell Hooks, and it was a national bestseller. Early on in our nation's history, when white settlers colonized Africans through systems of indentured labor and slavery, they justified these acts of racial aggression by claiming that black people were not fully human. In particular, it was in relation to matters of the heart, of care and love, that the colonizers drew examples to prove that black folks were dehumanized, that we lacked the range of emotions accepted as a norm among civilized folks. In the racist mindset, the enslaved African was incapable of deep feeling and fine emotions. Since love was considered to be a finer sentiment, black folks were seen as lacking the capacity to love. Can't take anything seriously from people who would steal beings and enslave them and harm them and rape and lynch them. Can't take their ideas seriously. Let me continue. When slavery ended, many of the racist stereotypes that had been used to subordinate and alienate black people were challenged. But the question of whether or not black people were capable of love, of deep and complex emotions, continued to be a subject for heated discussions and debate. In the early 1900s, black scholars began to debate the issue of whether or not the dehumanizing impact of racist terrorism and abuse had left black people crippled when it came to the matter of love. Writers like Richard Wright, Zora Neale Hurston, Anne Patry, Lorraine Hansberry, and James Baldwin sustained vibrant debates about the issue of love in fiction and nonfiction. Hurston's novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God, turning the page, showed that love was not only possible among the poor and oppressed, but a necessary and essential life force. In her provocative protest novel, The Street, Anne Patry offered the world an image of black heterosexual love where black men betrayed black women through sexual objectification and manipulation. Opportunistic greed leads the black male hero to assault and disrespect the integrity of the black female who loves him. Wright offered to the world in his protest novel, Native Son, an image of blackness that made it synonymous with dehumanization. With the absence of feelings, his character, Bigger Thomas, embodied a lovelessness so relentless it struck a chord of terror into the minds of black activists who had been struggling to counter similar images of blackness emerging from the white imagination. Yeah, so people going back and forth in literature trying to create an image answering the question, are we capable of love? Are we incapable? Should they have done that? Or just look at the fact, like, who's asking the question? People who treat us like people who could behave like that? Do they get to ask that question? In his autobiography, Black Boys, Wright dared to tell the world that he believed dehumanization had happened to many black folks, that ongoing racist genocide had left us damaged, forever wounded, in the space where we would know love. His critics, Baldwin and Hansberry, challenged this one-dimensional image of blackness. In Nobody Knows My Name, Baldwin declared, quote, I suggest that the role of the Negro in American life has something to do with our concept of what God is. To be with God is really to be involved with some enormous, overwhelming desire and joy and power to which you cannot control, which controls you. I conceive of my own life as a journey towards something I did not understand, which in the going toward makes me better. I conceive of God, in fact, as a means of liberation and not a means to control others. Love does not begin and end the way we seem to think it does. Love is a battle. Love is a war. Love is growing up. No one in the world knows more knows Americans better or loves them more than the American Negro, end quote. I'd agree, they love them, but they don't love them back. There's no reciprocity here, or that has been my observation. In the mid-60s, Hansberry told a group of aspiring young black writers that if they wanted to understand the meaning of love, they should talk to black folks and ask, quote, ask the troubadours who come from those who have loved when all reason pointed to the uselessness and foolhardiness of love, end quote. Daringly, she stated, quote, perhaps we shall be the teachers when it's done. Out of the depths of pain we have thought to be our sole heritage in this world, oh, we know about love. Both Baldwin and Hansberry believed that black identity was forged in triumphant struggle to resist dehumanization, that the choice to love was a necessary dimension of liberation. As late as 1974, writer June Jordan published the essay Notes Towards a Black Balancing of Love and Hatred, discussing the issue of which is the definitive black experience, the triumph of love over dehumanization celebrated in Hurston's work, or the triumph of violence, self-hatred, and destruction depicted in Wright's Native Son. Jordan states, quote, unquestioningly, Their Eyes Were Watching God is the prototypical black novel of affirmation. It is the most successful and convincing and exemplary novel of black love that we have, period, end quote. Yet Jordan urges us to feel no need to choose between Hurston or Wright, for she believes that in his dehumanizing, Bigger Thomas, quote, teaches as much about the necessity of love, of being able to love without being destroyed, as Hurston's Janny Starks, end quote, and declares that, quote, we should equally value and equally emulate black protest and black affirmation, for we require both. Despite the prophetic insight in the world of anti-racist activism, a call to violence rather than a call to love had already become the order of the day. The affirmation and love Jordan deemed essential was already under siege. Even though the prophets of the civil rights had always emphasized a liberation theology that upheld love as essential both to the creation in black folks of a healthy self-esteem, undergirding resistance struggle, and to the humanizing of the hard-hearted white folks, the focus on love did not prevail. As an organized black liberation movement emphasizing love was replaced by a call for militant, violent resistance. The value of love in movements for black self-determination and liberation was no longer highlighted. When the 70s came to an end and new cynicism had become the order of the day, the ethic of love once evoked by visionary leaders as the fundamental source of power and strength for our freedom struggle began to have little or no meaning in the lives of black folks, especially young people. Indeed, love was mocked, not just the love your enemies message of nonviolent revolution spearheaded by Martin Luther King, but also the message of building self-love, healthy self-esteem, and loving communities. As the quest for power subsumed the quest for liberation in anti-racist struggle, there was little or no discussion of the purpose and meaning of love in black experience, of love in liberation struggle. The abandonment of a discourse on love, of strategies to create a foundation of self-esteem and self-worth that would undergird struggle for self-determination, laid the groundwork for the undermining of all our efforts to create a society where blackness could be loved by black folks, by everyone. So I see where she's saying there, like, well, I don't think the Black Power movement, if that's what she's hinting at, I think it was about love. It was just a militant kind of love. Self-defense is love. And that's all they were on about, is they had a right to protect themselves. They had a right to love themselves. But as you see from their deeds, they were about building community and building cross-cultural alliances. So that part I don't agree with her with, but I do see, even to present, a lack of focus on building loving community, building loving self-esteem. It's more about money and stuff. The denigration of love in black experience across classes has become the breeding ground for nihilism, for despair, for ongoing terroristic violence and predatory opportunism. It has taken from black people the positive agency needed if we are to collectively self-actualize and be self-determining. Many of the material gains generated by militant anti-racist struggle have had little positive impact on the psyches and souls of black folks. For the revolution from within, that is the foundation on which we build self-love and love for others, has not taken place. Black folks and our allies in struggles who care about the fate of Black America recognize that the transformative power of love in daily life is the only force that can solve the myriad crises we now face. We cannot effectively resist domination if our efforts to create meaningful, lasting personal and social change are not grounded in a love ethic. Prophetically, salvation, black people and love calls us to return to love. Addressing the meaning of love in black experience today, calling for a return to an ethic of love as the platform on which to renew progressive anti-racist struggle, and offering a blueprint for black survival and self-determination. This work courageously takes us to the heart of the matter. To give ourselves love, to love blackness, is to restore the true meaning of freedom, hope, and possibility in all our lives. When black children tell me there is no love, I tell them love is always there, that nothing can keep us from love if we dare to seek it and to treasure what we find. Even when we cannot change ongoing exploitation and domination, love gives life meaning, purpose, and direction. Doing the work of love, we ensure our survival and our triumph over the forces of evil and destruction. Hansberry was right to insist that, quote, we know about love, end quote. But many of us have forgotten what we know, what love is, or why we need love to sustain life. This book reminds us love is our hope and our salvation. Oh yeah. So we're going to get further into it, but she laid the case out. So you can stick around if you want to hear more about this love, this revolutionary love that can radically change our lives. Or I'll put other stuff for you to feast on. Thanks so much for listening.